So what will we be making today?
Today we are going to be making zupa ogrokowa, which is a Polish pickle soup, and it's part of my family's Christmas Eve dinner called Vigilia.
That's a lot to take in.
A lot of words?
Yeah, a lot of words that I'm not familiar with, but how does it break down? What's in it?
It's pickle soup.
Yeah.
So, because as you can imagine, in the winter in Poland, there's not a lot of fresh vegetables. So it's basically potato, carrots, pickles,
Okay.
parsnip, and chicken stock. Like, that's it. So the way we make it, it's honestly the world's easiest soup to make. I mean, we could have made chicken stock from scratch. My family has never done that. We are going to just use chicken stock. And then you're going to add in potatoes, grated carrots, and a grated parsnip, and kind of let that cook for a little bit. So why don't we start by just heating up the chicken stock? And then while that's going, we can start to peel and grate the potatoes.
Okay. I just do it the old lady way that I learned from my grandmother.
So technically, it's funny. I said we make this for Vigilia, which is the name for traditional Polish Christmas Eve dinner. And there's chicken stock in it, which is kind of illegal. So Vigilia is meatless. You're not supposed to have meat.
Even on Christmas?
You never have meat on Christmas Eve.
But you can have fish?
Definitely fish.
Okay.
So the traditional Vigilia Christmas Eve dinner is it really should be done where I think it has 12 courses, one for each apostle, and it's usually heavily based on there's a soup and there's a lot of fish. There's a pickled herring called śledzi. Yeah, I know,
also
right?
a mouthful.
But our family has never followed the traditional Polish Vigilia. I don't know, when my family came over, my great-grandparents from Poland, they really had no money. And so it was always a very simple, basic, cubing. Yeah. Simple, basic dinner. And our family always had a soup. The aforementioned śledzi, pickled herring, and we would have two kinds of śledzi because you can't get enough pickled herring if you're a Polish family. So there was pickled, and then there was in cream.
Well, cheese.
Yeah. So I mean, it's all the same food.
Yeah,
and
it's all
Eastern European.
Yeah.
So we would have that, and then we would have some sort of fish, and we would always have pierogi, which my grandmother and my great aunt, Chachi Reggie, would make. A baked potato.
Wait, a baked potato and pierogi?
Yeah. So
Carb life.
All the carbs.
And the 12 apostle carbs.
Yeah, and then that was it. And then also bread. There was usually a bread, like either a challah or some sort of roll, sometimes rye bread. So because of this carb-heavy meal, and you probably could tell from my description, there's not a lot of color, we called it the beige meal. And so that, there's nothing colorful. One year I made red pepper sauce to go on the fish, which was swordfish, and everyone was horrified, and I was pretty much told never to do that again. But the pickle soup does have carrots in it, so there's some color there.
But then on Christmas Day, you have meat, right?
Yeah, Christmas Day. I mean, I don't know that my family did anything super traditional Polish on Christmas Day. We would, actually I think stick the bay leaf in here. On Christmas Day, we would usually have a pork roast or something like that. Emily, what did you do on Christmas Day?
I mean, we always have a big roasted meat of some variety, usually pork, or we'll do a turkey. We are Western European, so less based on sort of the root vegetable and sort of the cold.
The cold tundra.
Yeah, but we still have a lot of starch too. I mean, we've done, every potato every which way, that kind of thing. So we're not that different, but I don't think we've ever really adhered to the no meat Christmas Eve sort of mantra.
But the pickle soup originated. This is not original to the Belinsky family Vigilia. So the soup we would traditionally have was a mushroom barley soup.
Okay.
My mother and I.
So Jewish.
Yeah. Again, it's all the same.
Yeah.
It all comes from the same place.
Made amazing mushroom barley
My
soup.
mother and I did not like the soup. My mother and I don't like mushrooms. So every year you know, my grandmother would make this soup. We'd sit down to dinner. My mom and I would just like sit there with our hands folded.
She would catch on?
Well, no, we would openly say like we don't like the soup, but it was sort of like tough, whatever. Like everyone else is eating the soup because that's what you do. Like we eat this soup. So my mother and I would just sort of sit out, and then finally it was like when Greg, my husband, joined the family, he was like, wait, you guys don't eat the sledgy, you don't eat the soup, like you basically are waiting for the fish and the bread. Like, so he said, why don't you make a different soup? And everyone, it was like years, because, you know, in our family it was like, wait, you want to suggest that we change something about the dinner? No. And then we were living in Boston at the time, and we went to this great Polish restaurant, my husband and I, called Cafe Polonia, and yeah, that's the name of it. And they had this pickle soup, and I'm like, this is amazing. So I like convened the family, and I'm like, I have a proposal for Vigilia this year. What if we make this pickle soup? Pickle soup? No, we make the mushroom soup. And like, that was it. I contacted a friend of mine who had married a Polish woman, and I was like, does her family make pickle soup? He said, yeah. So she gave me the recipe we're making now. I made it for my family, and it was then deemed appropriate enough for the Belinsky Vigilia, and we've been doing it for, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's a big hit. So
I'm so curious about the shredded, grated pickle part.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it just sounds gelatinous. And also the pickle and cream.
I did a lot of like research online to sort of figure out like how do you make it, what are some different recipes before I went straight to a Polish source. This is from her family, but a lot were like sour cream or like creme fraiche.
Oh.
It's really just to give it, you don't really need the creaminess because you've got the potato.
Have you tried it with sour cream or creme fraiche? Or?
I haven't, because I've heard the sour cream will curdle
Yeah,
more.
That makes sense.
So than the heavy
More
cream.
than the heavy cream?
Yeah, because I think the cream has more milk fat in it, or milk solids, fat
Mhm.
solids.
Oh.
I don't know. Now, what, like, Linda, because I know you're Jewish, so obviously no Christmas Eve dinners for you, but like, what were some, I mean, actually what's funny is, you know who always came to our Vigilia? Our neighbors who were Jewish. They loved it.
Well, I love being invited to Christmas, or my favorite, I really enjoy getting invitations for Easter, of course.
Oh, well, you came to our house for Easter.
That's my favorite.
We do Polish Easter.
Oh, and how would that...
That's a huge Polish
But do you
holiday.
do ham?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes, there's meat. Yes, there's pork.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
Jewish envy.
The Jewish neighbor wants it. Well, that's why like all of our
My
Jewish
kids
neighbors
always
would come.
wanted, why can't we have a Christmas tree?
Yeah.
You know, the menorah is just this little thing. So we're neighbors. We live in a building together. But Emily and I have a different connection.
Yes.
Because Emily is married to Josh, who is my older son Ben's best friend since they're 2 years old. And Emily's mother-in-law is one of my best friends, Dee Dee. So we have this, when I tell people, we have this strange connection, and I always preface it with, I was living here first.
Yeah, that's true. You were.
And Josh contacted me and said, is it okay if Emily and I look at the apartment next to you? And I was like, yeah, that'd be
I
nice.
believe that your words were a little more colorful than that.
Well, they
but-
were. I didn't think I should say it. I was like, because when I'm laying with a heart attack in the middle of the hall, you are going to take me to the hospital because Ben won't. And Josh was like, okay, I can do that.
And yeah, we moved in across the hall like a week before you guys
Yeah.
moved in.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
really?
yeah, we were at the same time. So you were still first. And
Yeah, I was here alone on the floor. It was nice.
Yeah. So we moved in. It was all almost 7 years ago. We really all became friends when we all joined the building board together.
Well, no, also the book club.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
We had a
started a
building
book club years
Yeah.
ago, and that really,
That really took off and then went nowhere.
I know, and I haven't done anything. But I think we're really lucky because
We are really lucky.
I always hear people say how like there's no sense of community in the city, and I'm always like, God, I live in the best building. Like, I'm so lucky. It's such a community.
It's a good place. It's, I mean, again, anywhere you can sort of run across the hall in your slippers or
Yeah,
come over and like.
it's a pretty good setup.
As I said the other day, you know, it's a good building when you can show up for drinks or whatever. And I'm like, brought the half-consumed bottles of wine that I
Yeah.
had left over in my fridge. Here. my family, both my mother and my father are Polish. Both their grandparents immigrated over, both from relatively the same area in Poland. And they grew up in the same community in Worcester, Polish community, went to Polish grammar school all the way through high school. And so their families pretty much did the same thing in terms of what they ate and customs and cultures. But I've talked to other friends who are Polish that I've met later in life, not from Worcester, from like Chicago or different parts of the country, and they do very different things. Like I do have Polish friends who do the full 12 course Polish Vigilia. So I think it's also regional, and I think it's where you're from. Just like with like Italian food, like it's what part of Italy you're coming from, or so it varies. But this is just how our family has done it. Again, I don't know how the quote unquote beige meal originated and how that differed from the traditional 12 course thing, but that's what we always did. We used to always go to my Cioci Reggie, and Cioci is aunt in Polish. Hers is pretty much the same, but it was so many people. So she lived in a very traditional Worcester 3-decker apartment building. So I remember the dining room table would like span from like all the way through the entire apartment. And if you wanted a potato, because again, baked potatoes with the pierogi and everything else, you would be like, pass the potato, and it would be like somebody would basically like throw it down the table, and there would be like catchers and receivers. And I think like any family food and tradition, it's not about like, it was never that we were having like this great culinary experience eating baked potatoes and schledgy. It was like we're all just together, and that evolved with my family, where it wasn't like 25 of my blood relatives, but it was our Jewish neighbors who became part of the Polish dinner, and then it was some other friends who actually were Danish that became part of our Christmas Eve dinner, and we still threw potatoes, even though we were all at this. There were only 8 of us, but yeah,
love it.
Yeah, it's great. And that's I think the part that's the best about it is just the tradition, not necessarily the food. And that's I think why everyone was so resistant to me saying like, I want to switch it up, guys, and I want to put pickle soup in the program.
Okay, so let's see the magic.
You're so nervous about this, I can tell.
No, I just it's magic. Let's see. Pickle and cream. What did you do today? I saw pickle and cream. Can I taste it?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to see how much.
I want to taste it.
How creamy or not creamy.
I'm going to put the dill in shortly.
Okay, but I want a piece of pickle in my face. It's really good. Like it's really like
surprising,
subtle.
And it's true. You said pickle soup, we were like, really?
Yeah.
No, I get it.
And it's really very. I know this is a horrible word, but it's very harmonious. Like there's nothing that screams out. There's like the little bit. It's sort of like the.
It's
dill.
very well balanced.
Yeah, that's how you say it.
Yeah.
It's too hot for me. I should have brought rye bread.
Wow, who knew? Pickle soup.
It's very good.
It's really good. It's so funny to me not eating this at Christmas.
Do you never make it just for the hell of it?
No, I should. I think I will.
This was great. I'm so happy we cooked together.
I'm happy we cooked together too.